An American tourist whose husband died saving her life in the Westminster Bridge attack has sent love and compassion to the family of his killer Khalid Massoud. Melissa Cochran was pushed aside by her husband Kurt as the terrorist used his 4x4 car as a weapon in the shadow of Big Ben last March. Mr. Cochran, 54, took the full force of the 30 mph plus impact and was catapulted headfirst over a wall and onto a concrete walkway 17 feet below. Speaking from her home in Utah, Mrs. Cochran said she can only imagine the heartbreak Massoud's family feel at the murders the terrorist committed in an extraordinary and forgiving statement. "Share this article, she said. "I want to express my deepest love and compassion to all of the victims' families, to all of those who helped in any way that they could after the attack. To those who had to relive those events by testifying. I know that was very hard for some people. I also want to express love and compassion for Massoud's family. From what I understand, they didn't share his belief system, and this was not something that any of them obviously wanted to happen. They were obviously shocked when it did happen. I can only imagine the heartbreak they are feeling knowing that their father or their husband or son committed such atrocities. I just know in my heart that love and compassion and kindness wins over." Mrs. Cochran and her husband Kurt were on a European sightseeing trip to celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary when they visited London on March 22 last year. They had walked across Westminster Bridge and were planning to sit on a bench by the water and people watch before returning to Westminster Abbey for a tour. But instead they were caught up in carnage. Passionate musician Kurt was hit by a hire car driven by Massoud and killed. Mrs. Cochran, who was injured in the attack, remembers little of what happened. She said, "From what I have read and heard from the testimonies, Kurt saw the car coming, which I didn't until the very last second, and he pushed me almost completely out of the way. I did get hit by the car, but just enough to save my life. In Kurt doing so, he stepped in front of the car and was killed." She said it was typical of her partner to have instinctively acted to protect her. "He was such a compassionate, caring person. I'd like to think it was only me he would have done that for, simply from how much he loved me, but he would have done that to a complete stranger. He just really had such compassion for his fellow human beings. It doesn't surprise me in the least knowing that he did that. Obviously he's my hero. It was a fairy tale relationship to every cliché extreme. People write about it in books, but I was living it. We just had such a great relationship and we'd had such a great time on our travels through Europe. We were just in such a good place." The wonderful father of two, whose sons are 28 and 32, had more than 25 nieces and nephews. Mrs. Cochran said, "Obviously every aspect of our lives has changed. There's not a day that goes by that we don't think about him. His death left a huge gaping hole in our hearts and in the fabric of our family, even in the fabric of our community. We certainly cling to our loved ones a little more closely nowadays. Life is precious. We prioritize things that really matter and things that don't." Her leg was badly injured in the attack, and the flight to London for the inquest caused problems with the limb. In a cruel twist of fate, this meant she had to go back to St. Mary's Hospital, where she had been treated after the attack. While in the capital, she also bravely went back to Westminster Bridge. "I was with my sister, Angela Stold, and we just held hands and walked across the bridge. We cried, but I felt very calm and peaceful. I can't explain that really, except that I could just feel love, and it was okay. It was obviously very difficult, but I needed to do it for my healing. She thanked the coroner and his legal team for their work and said she has found the inquest process informative, although it will be a relief when it is finished. It's something that I think about every day as I get out of bed and feel my leg and not have Kurt here with me. It's been something that's kind of been looming over all of us and over our lives, so I think finally having the recommendations we will be able to move forward in our lives into the next chapter of our lives. Everyone from London, all over the world, London especially, have been so gracious and kind and loving to me, and I'm just eternally grateful for all of the support that I've had from so many people. It's hugely difficult, but it's a lot easier knowing there's so many people out there who are wishing me well, and the other victims and their families. Remove distressing Westminster attack images from web, urges coroner. The chief coroner has called for distressing pictures of victims of the Westminster attack to be removed from the internet. The inquest has heard how bystanders used selfie sticks and mobile phones to take snaps of the dead and injured on March 22 last year. Graphic video and pictures were posted on social media, with some remaining in circulation more than a year later, compounding the anguish of loved ones. They included images of the body of Aisha Fraid, who was trapped beneath the wheels of a bus after being hit by Khalid Massoud's hire car. In his concluding remarks, Coroner Mark Lucroft QC, Wright, said, "From some of the CCTV footage it is clear some people took photographs and moving footage. Some of that footage was sent to the police to assist with the investigation. Sadly, some people, for whatever reason, have put some of that material on the internet. Some of that material is very distressing to the families and I would encourage that it is removed." Massoud, 52, drove into pedestrians on Westminster Bridge, killing Ms. Fraid, 44, American tourist Kurt Cochran, 54, retired window cleaner Leslie Rhodes, 75, and Romanian tourist Andrea Cristea, 31. He then stormed through gates near the Houses of Parliament and fatally stabbed PC Keith Palmer with 2 knives. Mr. Lucroft praised the great dignity of the victims' families throughout the inquest. He said Massoud had driven a hired SUV at an average speed of 30 miles per hour to 42 miles per hour with clear murderous intent into pedestrians on the bridge, killing 4 people and seriously injuring 29. The coroner praised the quite overwhelming response from medics at St. Thomas's Hospital and members of the public who tried to help after the carnage. He said, "I'm sure what they did has been a great comfort to the families who could not be with their loved ones at the time.